Please continue.
Okay, let's go to the North American analysis. That slide talks about first climate and geography, and the slide I've got showing the temperature-based temperatures and humidity within the continent is very, very important because climate and temperature is very important to a lot of people, and some people have health issues which don't allow them to stay within an area. But sadly, the best areas really in the country are where it's cold in the wintertime. You really can't get around that. But the warm areas attract the slow, the slovenly, and the people who are seeking for recreation, the people who are least able to handle hard times when it comes. And so there's a difference, of course, in the hot areas in the Arizona, Texas.
So you want to be close to rural, anti-New World Order, hard hillbillies.
That's right. Although in the South, you have a lot of those, but you don't. It's too close to the high-density population centers of the East, and will get overwhelmed, in my opinion.
All right, stay there. We're going to come right back with Joel Skousen. I'm Alex Jones. We got 2 little segments left with him. It's obvious we'll have to do a part 2 in the future. Get the book at Infowars.com. Stay with us. By the way, I just secured many of the remaining books that Joel's got. We've got some in stock, but they're going a lot faster than I thought. Looks like they might be sold out in a couple hours, but he's about to ship me some more, and then he's out. He's got a reprint. If you want to get it, it's Strategic Relocation, North American Guide to Safe Places, 3rd edition. Everybody should at least think about this. And you've got time, but you need to start researching it now. And if you're going to stay in a major city, think about it. And at least think about things you can do there. And the book also covers that. I myself have moved outside the city, going on well, solar power. It's little basic things like that, and it's in increments what you can do to protect yourself. The biggest thing is firearms and, having a wall around your house, security, dogs. I mean, there's a lot of things, but if there's total breakdown of society, and you're even, 20 miles outside a major city in a rural area, you're going to get overrun. The authorities will come and try to confiscate what you got. It isn't perfect what I've done. It's far from that, but it's a little something. And so it's in increments. That's what the book Strategic Relocation covers, available at Infowars.com or by calling 888-253-3139. Joel, continuing where you left off in the slides.
Okay, we were talking about climate and geography. There's a little secret that I point out in the book in terms of best climate and geography for survival and for living in a colder climate so that you're not, extremely inconvenienced. If you run a line from western Montana all the way down through the point of Texas, you get a diagonal across the United States. That essentially runs with the line of the Rocky Mountains through Utah, Colorado, and to the west of that, you have 15-degree more moderate temperatures than you do to the east of that line. And that's because the cold Canadian continental air from up above swings down into the central United States and mixes up with that warm, humid air, creating your massive blizzards in the wintertime, your sweeping, bitter winds that come across the plain states, and the huge amounts of tornadoes that plague the southern and central states, Texas, Oklahoma, et cetera, because of that. But you don't have hardly any of those once you stay on that diagonal line to the west. And that's why the best, long-term climates for survival, and it's also important to consider humidity. Humidity is a problem, both without air conditioning and because of the molds and insects that are bred where you don't get cold winters. But that's why Utah and Idaho and parts of New Mexico, northern Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming, western Montana receive the higher ratings. Next slide goes and shows the population density maps of the United States, and there we can see in much more detail how heavily populated the eastern seaboard is. And this also, because of the population centers in the Midwest as well, shows why the Midwest will get compromised, even though there's a tremendous amount of great areas in the Ozark Mountains and other places in rural Tennessee and rural Missouri, Oklahoma, and even in Texas, the northern southern states. All of these are at risk of having the massive population densities flee out of the cities because they'll be the first ones to melt down when there isn't enough food, water, or supplies, and they'll start fleeing westward, and that ends up compromising those. That's one of the reasons why the Intermountain West area is the highest rated area in my analysis, because it has this 800 miles from San Francisco. It's 700 miles from Los Angeles over trackless deserts. This isn't.
You know, Joel, we're almost out of time. We're going to do a little bit more into the next segment, maybe even go into more overdrive, but we're both busy. But I want people to be able to see and hear all this in one concise piece. But I want to ask you questions like, I know it's not perfect for everybody, but where would you live? Or where are the elites moving? Or what are they doing? And I want to ask some of those basic questions after this 1-minute break. All the questions are answered in Strategic Relocation, North American Guide to Safe Places, 3rd edition. Get it while you can, Infowars.com.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
Well, we covered a lot of territory, but I'd guess we got 25% into the book. We're going to schedule a second interview where we just basically run through, recap what we already covered, and then get into all the other areas in the next few weeks with Joel Skousen in a part 2. The book is Strategic Relocation, North American Guide to Safe Places, 3rd edition. And Joel, just in closing, some basic quick questions I've got. Where do you live? I mean, generally.
Well, I follow my own advice. I moved from Oregon, which is challenging California as socialist state of the union in terms of restricted property laws and things, to Utah, because this is that state that is the furthest away from all of these population threats and through trackless wilderness and desert. It's just almost impossible for people without fuel, food, and other facilities to get from Los Angeles up to Utah, and the same thing from Sacramento or San Francisco or from Seattle, any of those major, even Denver is 500 miles away through the most difficult mountain passes.
And there's also a culture up there of people who are into being prepared and self-sufficient, so you don't have to worry as much about them coming and trying to rob you.
Yeah, that's right. And there is a knit-togetherness to the Mormon population there that even if state government breaks down, they have that church hierarchy which maintains order. And that doesn't mean that everyone has to be a Mormon. In fact, they're very open to other people coming in. But it means that the base population will remain stable and not riot and not panic as much as other communities. And that's why there's going to be, I believe, more stability there. But that doesn't mean that everybody has to move to Utah. Everybody can. I really stress and cover the worst thing that people did in Y2K, and I warned against this, but they did it anyway. They ran out into the most rural areas, sold everything, quit their jobs, and then they were calling me up in droves, after Y2K and said, well, now what do? I've run out of money. Self-sufficiency is a lot more expensive than I thought. And I say, well, you're going to have to go back and reestablish your financial lifeline and do it all over again. And that's why it's very important for people to realize that you can't just do this all in one step. Sometimes you have to take two.
No, you got to think it out. And something the globalist type is not ever going to be the real threat. The real threat's going to come like a thief in the night. Now, the elites, and it's even admitted in CNN, they're building, even if they stay in cities, big underground bunkers, arming themselves. Briefly, all these former government people, what are they doing? I know a lot of them are going to Utah, Wyoming, Montana.
And Colorado. A lot of them have built resorts or cabins, very luxurious cabins in the ski resorts of Colorado. And the reason they do that is because Denver, this is not a recommended city, Denver's the western center of the New World Order globalists. They have bunkers there. They have a power center.
It's the admitted alternate government.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Denver is a very bad place, and that's why a lot of these ex-CIA, ex-NSA, and Army and government who know that a nuclear war is coming have built big underground bunkers. They're not telling the American people. They don't want us prepared, but they themselves are preparing. And I have run into numerous contractors who I've worked with in Colorado who've told me, you can drive down the street in Aspen and other areas and say, there's a bunker in that house, there's a bunker there. He's former NSA, he's CIA. I mean, these people know something, and it's just criminal that they don't tell the American people.
Where are the elites running abroad?
Well, a lot of them are in Switzerland. A lot of them are in northern Italy, in Germany, in the Alps. They're following what Hitler did. Bavaria's full of them. And they're also going to Latin America. A lot of them in South America, around Buenos Aires, some of them in Brazil. But those areas in Argentina, they expect, I think, to try to control, but they're down there as well.
Yeah, I know the Rockefellers have really been moving and building houses and buying up land in Argentina.
Yeah, the Bushes have built and got a big chunk of land down there in Paraguay. I don't think that's going to serve them very well, but that's where they are.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of acres. So is Ted Turner. Well, amazing presentation. Joel Skousen, 2 or 3 weeks from now, we'll set up a second part of the slideshow, go through it all, but we got a big chunk of it out of the way. But folks, do your own research. Do whatever you can in degrees to mitigate the dangers of this world and all the stresses that are only intensifying, and the dollar devaluation. An economic collapse for me is what I'm worried about, not tsunamis, not earthquakes. The nuclear wars down the road. Strategic relocation available at Infowars.com. Get them while you can. They're selling out quick. Joel, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Alex.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.